after a year. Let me ask you a question that feels a little uncomfortable. How many of you right now are running on the hamster wheel of income, working hard, account after a year, maybe even earning good money, but at the end of the month, you look at your bank account and you think, wait, where did it all go? You're not alone after a year. The problem isn't always how much you make. The problem is often the silent, invisible leaks in your financial foundation. Today, after a year, we're not talking about complex stock market strategies. We're going to talk about the 7 simple, costly, and incredibly common money mistakes that are right now keeping you broke. And more importantly, how to plug every single leak. The first mistake and the most seductive one is living without a target account after a year. You wouldn't start a road trip without a destination, but you go through life without a financial goal. That's just driving aimlessly, hoping to stumble upon prosperity. You need a number. I need $5 for an emergency fund. I will invest $200 a month. That number is your target. Without it, a year, every spending decision is arbitrary and your money wanders off. Mistake number 2, budget blindfold. You're afraid to look. You avoid checking your account. After a year, you cringe at your spending notifications. This isn't avoidance, it's financial self-sabotage. You cannot manage what you do not measure. After a year, you putting on the blindfold feels safe in the short term, but it guarantees you'll walk right off a cliff, which leads us to the third and most emotional mistaking after a year. Mistaking wants for needs. Be brutally honest. That daily gourmet coffee, the upgraded phone, when the old one works perfectly after a year. The retail therapy for a hard day. These are not needs. We dress them up as self-care, as deserved treats after a year. But when you consistently fund your wants at the expense of your future needs, you are borrowing happiness from a bankrupt tomorrow. The fourth leak is the debt deception. After a year, we tell ourselves, it's just minimum payments, or everyone has student loans. We finance lifestyles we can't afford with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. High interest debt, especially from credit cards, is not a tool. It's a master. And it owes your time, your energy after a year, and your freedom until you decide to break its chains. Fifth, I'll start later, illusion. After a year, oh, I'll invest when I make more money. I'll save after my next raise. This is the most expensive procrastination of your life. After a year, time is the most powerful force in building wealth, not the amount of money. A small amount invested consistently 30 years dwarfs a large amount invested for 10. You are not waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time was yesterday. The second best time is right now. Mistake 6 is a silent dream killer, no emergency fund. Without this, you are one flat tire, one medical bill, one broken appliance away from spiraling back into debt. Your emergency fund or savings, it's a force field. Bank out after a year. It's what allows you to say to a bad job, to handle life's surprises, and to sleep soundly at night after a year. Not having it means you are always one crisis away from being broke, no matter your salary. And finally, the 7th mistake, financial illiteracy. After a year, think it's too complex. That rich people. You outsource your financial power to apps, to influencers, to blind hope. You must become the CEO of your own financial life, understanding basic compound interest, knowing what an index fund is after a year, reading the terms of your loan. This isn't geeky. This is how you take back your power. Imagine for a moment the most important flight of your life. The destination after a year, financial freedom. You're in the cabin. You can feel the turbulence of bills, the pressure changes of unexpected expenses after a year, but you have absolutely no idea who's flying the plane. There's a locked door between you and the cockpit, and you're just hoping, praying after a year that whoever is in there knows what they're doing. That visceral feeling of being a powerless passenger after a year, handing over your security to unseen forces. That is precisely the relationship most people have with their money. It's a terrifying way to travel through life after a year. The most profound shift you will ever make is not a shift in income, but a shift in agency. It is the deliberate, after a year, conscious move from being a passenger along for the ride to becoming the pilot in command of your financial vessel. This is not a metaphor. It is the non-negotiable first principle of wealth creation. Let's confront the reality of passenger behavior. It manifests as a nagging account after a year, nagging anxiety when you check your bank balance. It's the reflexive swipe of a debit card without a mental ledger after a year. The automated payment for a subscription you never use. The quiet resignation that budgeting is too restrictive or complicated. The passenger mindset outsourced responsibility. It blames the economy, the job market, the system, while surrendering all control over the one thing you can absolutely influencing your own choices. Every time you think, I'll deal with it later, or it's fine, I deserve this, you are voluntarily walking to back of the plane and buckling yourself into a seat. You are accepting turbulence as fate rather than a condition to be navigated. Taking the controls begins with a single, courageous act, turning on the instrumentation. You must illuminate the cockpit. This means conducting a full, unflinching financial audit. You must know your precise coordinates, your exact income, your exact outflow, after a year, down to the last dollar. This is not an exercise in self-judgment. It is an exercise in situational awareness. After a year, a pilot doesn't ignore the fuel gauge because the number is low. They acknowledge it so they can plan to refuel. Count after a year. You must confront your cash flow with the same clinical detachment. Where is your money actually going? Not where you hope it goes, not where you think it goes after a year, but where the transaction history roughly proves it goes. This data is your altimeter, your airspeed indicator. Without it, you are flying blind through a storm. After a year, once you have the data, you must grip the yoke and make a deliberate course correction. This is where intention replaces automation. A passenger accepts the preset flight path. A pilot files a new one. You look at the outflow and you ask the foundational question, a year. Does this expense align with my destination? If your target is a debt-free life, does that impulse purchase keep you on course? If your goal is investment after a year, does this spending pattern support that asset? You begin to author your own financial flight plan. You set the headings of allocate 10% to savings immediately upon arrival of funds. Reduce discretionary spending by 15% this month after a year. Divert all found money to the high interest debt. You are no longer hoping to arrive somewhere. You are programming the coordinates to get there. This transition from passenger to pilot fundamentally alters your psychology. Passengers feel anxiety. Pilots feel alertness. Passengers experience turbulence as a threat. A year. Pilots understand it as a manageable variable, adjusting their controls accordingly. When unexpected expense hits, the medical bill after a year, a car repair, the passenger sees a catastrophic engine failure. The pilot having checked the systems and built reserves. After a year, you seize it as a known challenge for which they have contingency procedures. The cockpit is a place of power, not fear, because it is a place of knowledge and action. After a year, your financial dashboard, your budget, your net worth statement, your goal tracker is that cockpit. To sit in that chair, to study those instruments. After a year, and to steer with purpose is to reclaim the authority you were born to have over your own life's journey. The sky is not the limit, it is your domain. But only if you have courage to step forward, close the door behind you, and take control of the controls. The seat has been empty, waiting for you. It's time to claim it. Consider the most powerful, yet simplest, word in the lexicon of wealth: enough. In a world whose entire economic engine is designed to make you feel perpetual lack, to see your current reality as inadequate and your future self as requiring endless upgrades, your most revolutionary act is to personally and definitively define what enough means for you. This is not a passive acceptance of mediocrity. It is the active, strategic construction of a fortress. It is drawing a line in the sand of your finances and declaring, this much secures me. This much frees me. Beyond this, I am building abundance, not feeding insufficiency. The relentless chase for more gadgets, more status symbols after a year, more fleeting luxuries, is a treadmill that keeps you running in the exhausting neighborhood of broke. It's a chase with no finish line, only deeper fatigue. But when you define enough, you install a finish line you can actually cross. You transform an insatiable hunger into a measurable goal. And in doing so, after a year, you reclaim an astonishing amount of psychological space and financial resources. The process begins with a forensic audit of your values, not just your expenses. You must ask the piercing question, what does enough actually look like in the key pillars of my life? For security, after a year, might be a 6-month runway of essential living expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account after a year. A sum that allows you to breathe through any professional or personal storm without panic. For freedom, enough could be the total elimination of high-interest consumer debt, that monthly drain and your energy silenced forever. For growth, enough might be a specific, a year, automated percentage of your income flowing into investments before you'll once ever get a vote. This definition is deeply personal and must be utterly specific. Vague aspirations like be comfortable or have savings are useless. They are marriages that shift with every marketing campaign you see. You must attach concrete numbers and timelines. Enough security is $15, $1,000 by December. Enough freedom is a zero credit card balance. These are not wishes after a year. They are engineering specifications for the life you're building. Once defined, your mission shifts from acquisition to defense. This is where you move from theory to power. Your defined enough becomes the filter through which every financial decision must pass. That compelling advertisement, that social pressure to upgrade your car, that internal voice whispering, you work hard, you deserve it. These are no longer simple temptations after a year. They are potential breaches in your fortress wall. You now have a criterion for engagement. Does this expense, this commitment, move me closer to my enough, or does it the resources allocated to it? This filter creates a phenomenal clarity. It turns a difficult no into an easy, empowered not yet, or a strategic that does not serve my goal. You are no longer depriving yourself after a year. You are protecting a future version of yourself who gets to live in peace and possibility after a year. You are defending your own sovereignty against a culture of consumption that profits from your undefined desires after a year. This defensive posture is the birthplace of true financial confidence. When you are clear on your enough, the noise of comparison falls away. Someone else's newer car, larger home, or more extravagant vacation becomes irrelevant data. It is not on your map because it is not part of your defined destination. Your worth is no longer unconsciously tied to your stuff. Your spending becomes intentional, not active. Every dollar allocated to your enough goals, to that emergency fund, that debt snowball, that investment account, is a soldier enlisted in the defense of your future. And here lies the ultimate paradox. By fiercely defending enough, you create the very conditions that allow for authentic, unpressured abundance. Once the fortress of security is built and the moat of freedom is dug after a year, the resources that went to endless fortification can now flow toward genuine enrichment and growth. You stop funding a war against perceived lack and start building a kingdom of chosen value. The chase ends. The building begins. And it starts with the courageous, quiet, after a year, profoundly powerful act of deciding for yourself what is truly enough. Every single day you stand at a crossroads. It's not a grand, after a year, dramatic signpost in the distance. It's a quiet, almost invisible fork in the road that appears in the mundane moments of your daily life. Count after a year. It appears when you're scrolling online with a cart full of items you didn't seek out. After a year, when you're debating the upgrade you can technically afford but don't logically need. When you're reaching for your wallet to solve a stressful day. At this fork, two paths diverge. One is paved with immediate gratification. It's wide, well lit, and lined with the familiar dopamine hits of a purchase confirmed, a treat secured after a year, a momentary escape purchase. The other path narrower, less trodden, and its rewards are invisible in the present moment. This path is paved with delayed gratification. After a year, and the consistent, conscious choice to take this second path is the very engine that transforms a life of financial reactivity into one of profound financial freedom. After a year, this is the essential trading. You are not giving things up. You are conducting a strategic exchange. You are trading what you want right now for what you want most after a year. Let's dissect the mechanics of this trade because understanding its value is what makes it sustainable. The immediate gratification path offers a clear, quick return, the thrill of the new, the comfort of the familiar, the social value of the latest trend. Its currency is emotion, boredom, stress as envy, a desire for reward. The transaction is fast and the feeling, while real, is often fleeting. It's a sugar rush for your sight. The delayed gratification path, however, operates on an entirely different timeline and currency. Its return is not a feeling today, but a condition tomorrow. Its currency is compound interest, equity, security, and optionality. When you forgo that $50 dinner out and instead allocate it to a high interest debt payment, you are not just saving $50. You are trading it for the future interest you will not pay, which might be for $75 or $100 that you get to keep later. You are buying future liquidity. A year. When you invest $100 instead of upgrading a perfectly functional gadget, you are not losing a feature. You are purchasing future capital. You are trading a minor upgrade today for a major life upgrade later. The ability to work by choice, not by necessity. To handle a crisis with cash, not credit, after a year. To fund a dream without begging for a loan. This is where the narrative, deprivation, must be shattered. You are not depriving yourself after a year. A strategist on a chessboard does not feel deprived when they sacrifice a pawn to secure a checkmate 3 moves later. They executed a trade. A farmer does not feel deprived when they bury a seed instead of eating it. They are investing in harvest. Framing this as deprivation is the language of the passenger, the one who feels victimized by their own plan. The piloter, the strategist, frames it as allocation. After a year, you're simply allocating your finite resource, your capital, from the Department of Immediate Comfort to the Department of Long-Term Construction. After a year, the discomfort you feel in the moment of saying no is not a sign you are wrong. It is the friction of growth. It is the muscle of your financial discipline being exercised. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger and more natural it becomes. Ultimately, after a year, this consistent practice of trading short-term wants for long-term freedom rewires your relationship with time itself. You begin to see your money not as a tool for present tense expression, but as a seed for future tense possibility. The delayed gratification path cultivates patience, and patience is the soil in which wealth grows. It allows you to see beyond the monthly cycle of earn and spend to the multi-year arc of build and own. A year, each small. No day is a down payment on a much larger yes. Tomorrow, the yes to a career change, the yes to a sabbatical after a year, the yes to investing in a loved one's dream, the yes to peace of mind that cannot be purchased in a store but must be built in the quiet after a year. Consistent choices of your everyday life. The trade is always happening. The question is not whether you are trading, but what you are trading for after a year. Are you trading your future freedom for present day trinkets, or are you trading trivial comforts today for a sovereign tomorrow? The market is always open after a year, and you are always the trader. Choose your currency wisely. Let's conduct a simple, sobering audit of your most valuable asset. I'm not talking about your car after a year, your home, or your education. I'm talking about your time. For the vast majority of people, their time is directly and exclusively exchanged for money. You trade hours for dollars. It's a linear equation, and it has a brutal, non-negotiable ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day, and you must sleep. You must eat. When your bank account after a year, you must live. When your income is irrevocably tied to your physical or mental presence, you have built a job, not a life. After a year, you have created a situation where your earning potential is the moment you stop actively laboring. This is the fundamental trap of purely active income, banking after a year, and the silent reason why so many people work harder and harder only to feel they are falling further behind. The seismic shift, the one that moves you from being a laborer in your own financial field, becoming the owner of the farm, occurs when you ensure your money is working with as much diligence. After a year, strategy, and relentless effort as you are, your capital must become your most tireless, most productive employee, one that clocks in the moment you do, and critically, and a year. It continues working long after you've clocked out. Think of your money not as a static resource to be spent or saved, but as a team of workers. Every dollar in a near zero interest checking account is a worker asleep on the job, collecting a paycheck for doing absolutely nothing. After a year, money sitting idly is not just lazy, it's actively losing ground to the silent thief of inflation, which erodes its purchasing power while it naps. Money solely dedicated to servicing high interest debt is a worker whose entire labor is being confiscated by a past decision. It's toiling in a debtor's prison, generating value for a bank, not for you. Your first managerial duty is to fire the lazy workers and parole the indentured ones. You must redeploy this team. After a year, this means moving idle cash into a high-yield savings account where it can at least earn a mode's wage defending itself against inflation. After a year, it means launching a relentless campaign to eliminate high-interest debt. After a year, which is the equivalent of freeing your most productive workers from servitude and putting them in your own projects. Once you have a base of capital that is no longer asleep or enslaved, your strategy elevates from defense to offense. This is where you put your money on active duty in the wealth creation engine. You assign it to productive tasks. This could mean investing in a low-cost, a broad market index fund, a venture where your money joins a collect force behind small pieces of thousands of the world's most productive companies. While you sleep, after a year, your money is there owning a share of global innovation, productivity, and profit. After a year, it could mean allocating it to a retirement account where it benefits from efficient growth, effectively keeping more of its earned wages for itself. After a year, it could mean using it as a down payment on a cash flowing asset, like a piece of investment property or a small business stake. After a year, where it doesn't just earn interest, but generates an entirely new stream of income. The mechanism matters less than the principally. Your capital must be deployed in a vehicle where its core job is to multiply. Its performance must be measured, its position reviewed, and its strategy adjusted. After a year, you are not a passive bystander hoping for growth. You are a CEO allocating resources to the divisions with the highest strategic return. This is the architecture of financial independence in building a system where your labor is no longer the sole or even primary source of your livelihood. You will anchor after a year. You are building an engine that runs independently of your time. The ultimate goal is to reach a point the productive work of your capital, its dividends, its interest, its appreciation, its cash flow, covers the cost of your life. This is not a fantasy. After a year, it is a mathematical inevitability if you consistently and wisely deploy your capital over time. The question is not if your money can work for you. It is when it count after. It is whether you will give it a job worthy of its potential. Will you let it sleep, or will you put it to work? Will you only use it to pay for the past, or will you position it to fund your future? Every single dollar you possess is a tiny employee with infinite stamina. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't demand vacations. Your sole responsibility is to be the leader it requires, to marshal, direct it, and command it to produce. So audit your team today after a year. Who's working and who's sleeping? The gap between your current reality and your future freedom is filled by the answer. So here is your call to action. This week, I want you to choose just one of these 7 leaks, the one that stung the most when you heard it, and you are going to face it. You are going to name your target, count after a year. You are going to take off the budget blindfold. You're going to challenge one need. You are going to attack one debt with a plan. You are going to start today, even with $5. You are going to open the emergency fund account. You are going to read one article about investing. These 7 mistakes are not life sentences. They are habits, and habits can be broken. The path to wealth isn't hidden in a secret stock tip. After a year, it's revealed when you stop the bleeding. When you plug these leaks, you stop working for money and start making your money work for you. After a year, the difference between broke and being abundant is often just a few corrected mistakes. Decide today which side of that equation you're on. After a year, the power is not in your paycheck, it's in your choices. Now, go make them.